it's Jason. Welcome back to Hardy Life Outdoors. It is early spring, and by early spring I mean mid-March here in southern Ohio, and I'm in the darn barn. First time I've been down here in a few weeks, actually months. So while I was down here, I went out on the Habitat Oasis project and I was messing around a little bit and noticed a lot of my tree tubes were in bad shape. And it got me thinking about some content for a video. And one of the questions I see people ask a lot, this time of year, everybody is thinking about planting trees. And people start asking the question about, do I tube, do I not tube, can I cage them? What are my options for protecting my trees? Do I even need to do it? And, the last 5 years, Josh and I have been planting trees back on the Habitat Oasis project and have certainly learned a lot about planting and protecting your trees. Kind of the first question you got to ask yourself is, what are you protecting the trees from? Is it that you don't want deer rubbing them? Is it that you don't want deer eating them? Is it, that you don't want the hot sun baking the young trees? What is it you're protecting from? I know I see people talk about trying to protect fruit trees from bears. I don't know how you do that. From what I've seen and heard, if a bear wants it, they go and get it. But what I'm doing back here is I am trying to protect trees from deer browse and rubbing. So I want to keep the deer off of them, make sure they don't destroy my brand new trees. As I mentioned, we have planted several hundred trees, and my plan was to shoot this whole video back there, but it is so windy, I knew I was going to be fighting wind noise the whole time, and it would make for a miserable video for you to listen to. So I'm shooting part of it here. I've shot some footage back there that I will plug in so you'll get to see some of the things I'm talking about. But let's start off with just to tube or not to tube. And I can tell you that for all of our bare root trees, we have made the decision that we are going to tube all of them. Give them the best shot. Now, as I say all of them, the exception there is we have not tubed our pine trees. At 25 cents a piece, you just kind of plant them and hope for the best, because the cost of a tube is and a post and all that is far more expensive than what you're protecting. So we don't protect our little pine trees, but the rest of our bare root trees we try to protect. When we first planted, we had about 250 trees we were planting. So we were trying to do this as cost effectively as possible. And one of the things that we did is we did have an equip contract that helped cover the cost of trees. We did have some help, but we were still trying to do it as cost effectively as possible. We decided to go with a preformed tube. And this is a 4-foot tube. One of the things we did was, based on the size of the trees, we bought different size tubes. So this is a 4-foot. We did some 24s. I think this is 18. We might have even done some 12s. My recommendation to you, go with the 4s. Don't waste your money on the small ones. The trees quickly grow to the top of these, and the deer are browsing the tops off of them. This particular tube, I don't know what's done that. If that's been a deer, raccoon, coyote, I have no idea, but something has chewed the top of that tube. I got quite a few examples of that where things have chewed them. But we went with these, and the way these ship, and these are going to be expensive to ship, they ship full length, and they nest them inside of each other. So they nest 5 of them. So each of your tubes is going to be slightly different size. They have 5 sizes, but they nest them to make them easier to ship, more cost effective to ship. But they are expensive and to ship. And that's why a lot of people choose, instead of going with the preformed, to go with the flat tubes and put them together themselves. This is what they look like when they show up. They are rolled up, and if you buy 100 of them, your roll's about this big. They're all pre-cut, they're ready to go, but they're wrapped together. This seemed like a good option. You can save a lot of money on shipping with these. But what I found with these is they're rolled this way, and now when you get to the field, you've got to get them rolled this way, get zip ties on them, and get them in place. I found that the money I was saving, I was wasting on time of building these things. They just frustrated me. So I've used some of these out there, but given the choice, I don't want to say given the choice, I've got the choice, I won't buy these again. I will stick with the preformed, and it's more than just the time to put them together. My guess is if you get into a good routine and you've got some help, you can probably build these things pretty fast. Potentially you could build them in the garage or in the barn ahead of time so that they're ready to go. I'm not sure that's worth the effort, but my guess is that someone out there is going to say, hey, they're not that big a deal to put together, and that's what they've gone with. What I have found, before I jump into my stakes, I want to finish this. What I found, I just came back from the field, and this is one of those roll-up tubes. The wind caught it, got inside of it, and just absolutely shredded it. I've got a bunch of tubes out there that are torn to pieces like that. All these, none of my preformed tubes look like this. So yeah, that is the downside that I have found with these tubes. And when they do fall apart, little pieces of plastic tear off, you have a little piece of plastic all over the place. I try to pick it up just because I don't want to leave trash out there. I think it will eventually photo degenerate, goes away, but they're a mess. I'm not a fan of those. Other thing, and this gets into, we'll start looking at stakes. The other thing we were doing to try to save money is Josh has a sawmill, so we decided instead of buying stakes, we would make our own stakes. So we fired up the sawmill, cut some boards, and started cutting stakes. And this is one of those stakes. They came off, we were thrilled at what we had. Went out, we put a lot of these in the ground, and they seemed like a really good choice that they'd save us a lot of money. This one was longer, but it has rotted and broken off. And that's what we found, was over time, we would go out there and I would find my tubes laying on their side. They had rotted off right at the ground. Several trees down through here with our wooden stakes that are in bad shape. So I'm gonna be making a trip to the store, picking up some metal stakes and coming out and getting these back up. Down there we've got one, it's actually got a wooden stake, but the zip tie has failed. So I'll fix that while I'm here. We made these about 1 inch by 1 inch. I've got an example of what the landscaper who planted trees in my yard at my new house used. That's about twice the size, a 2 inch by 2 inch. So if you're going to cut your own, don't scrimp and make them too small. Go with something larger, and it's going to hold up a lot longer. So this is what we had. Don't recommend 1 inch by 1 inch homemade stakes. They seem to save us a lot of money, but what they saved us in money, they're costing me in time, because now I have to go back and replace them. What I've been replacing them with is a metal post, and this is a bad example of a metal post because this one is bent. Let me see what size this is. This is a 5-foot U post, and the wind caught this one and bent it. So I've got a bunch of them. I still like these. They're very cost effective. Most of them have done very well. This particular one did bend, but this works really well. One of the things that I found is if you're going to use these, you're going to want as tall of a post as you can get, because they are not as solid and they will fold over on themselves. So if you try to stake it with a shorter stake, the wind will catch it. All that wind will break your zip tie and it folds right over on top of itself. So you don't want to go with short posts if you're doing the flat tubes. Then you get into more of a real-time T-post. You know, if you can afford to do all your trees with these are awesome. Go buy them. A lot of times you can find these on Facebook Marketplace. You can find them on Craigslist. I've bought them in the past where I paid about $1 a piece for them because somebody had pulled a bunch and just wanted them gone. So if you can find them used, you can save a lot of money. If you can't, if you can afford to buy them, this is the way to go. You're going to get the best support for your trees and your tubes with a nice heavy T-post. It's also something that over time you can recycle into other trees. So if you've got the money, invest in those. They work well. These, I'm still happy with these. They're more cost effective, and I'll continue to use these despite the crooked and bent bottom. Now, if you're going to use these, one of the things I recommend that you buy is a post driver. This thing is going to save you a lot of effort and a lot of smashed fingers You go out there with a sledge, and I do have a mini sledge that I use. Sooner or later, you're going to miss the top of that post or glance off of it and get your hand. So this will drive them really well. It's available on Amazon. Any of the products like the tubes, anything that I share with you that's available on Amazon, I will put a link at the end of the video. So if you're interested in them, you can pick them up there. We use this. It has been great. It helps drive the posts. Our ground is really solid. I was out there putting one in today, and it got in 6 or 8 inches. And our soil out there, we have a reclaimed strip mine. You go down 8 inches or so, and it's like concrete. And you'll see me driving with this and what happened to that post when I did that. So definitely consider investing in one of these. I mentioned as well, this is, I don't know if this is even a 3-pound sledge, but that helps, especially if you're just trying to tap something in or get it started. That works pretty well. All of your tubes should come with zip ties, and these are the locking zip ties. So if you buy these tubes, they should come with them. But the nice thing is you can use them, zip it on, and take it off. There will be times that you want to take your tubes off to inspect what's going on inside. You end up with wasp nests, bird nests, all kinds of leaves and stuff. I will take my tubes off. These make it really nice to take them off, put them back on. And these are the ones that came with my tubes. So they hold up pretty well. I'm really cheap. If I have one that part of it breaks off, if I can use just the last little bit, I'll reuse them. So that's just me trying to get more out of the zip ties. Another option. So if you've decided I said all of our bare root trees we are tubing. When you get into our larger trees that have a root ball, I fence those. And you get to the question of how big of a cage do you need to put around them? And I can tell you, caging is much more expensive than tubing. So when you start thinking about caging, you're gonna have to go out and buy some fence and some posts to support it. It takes, to make a circle this big, I mean, you're talking 5 or 6 feet of fence just to make a small circle. If you want to get to a 3-foot or a 6-foot, you're talking, you can be up to 20 feet of fence to make that 6-foot circle. And I'll have to do the math to give you the exact number, but I thought it was right in that range. So if you're doing larger trees, I definitely recommend fencing them, and fencing them large enough to keep the deer from reaching over. I had some apple trees back there that the deer could get to, and they will break limbs and damage the tree. Okay, so these are my apple trees, and I've got, I think, 6 of them in here. They all started off with pretty small cages around them. This is one that I put about a 6-foot diameter small cage. There's some damage to the limbs. I don't know if that's from deer or the wind. I would say very likely that the deer got a hold of it. Good example of a tree that could use a nicer cage to better protect it. Well, how I do that, I will use a T-post or a U-post as my primary support, and then I bought some of these fiberglass driveway markers. And what I will do with these is I will weave them down through the fence, like in and out of the fence, and stick them in the ground, and that helps keep my circle. Now, if you're in a cow pasture or somewhere, that's not going to work. If you've got a deer that's really aggressively going after that tree, they're probably going to be able to move these. I've not had a problem with them, so they're a pretty cost-effective way of supporting those larger round fences. Other cases, I've used 2 metal posts on the sides opposite each other, and then use these intermittent around it. So just another way to support that cage and fence to keep the deer off of it. I think that's all I've got here on tubes and stakes. One other thing I have, this is something I bought several years ago, is just a nice set of pruners. When you're out there and you're planting, if you're planting bare root stuff, a lot of that stuff you need to trim the roots, and having a nice set of pruners is a huge help. So I bought these a few years ago, spent more on these than I'd ever spent on a set of pruners, and it wasn't that much. I just always went cheap. And once I did, you know, I swear by them. These are really good. Again, I'll put a link at the end of the video where you can find these pruners, but they were good. Other things, trying to think of other things I saw when I was out there. If the ground is wet, you're going to need to make sure that your posts go in deeper, because with wind and deer or whatever, they can get pushed around. I don't know. I think that's it. You know, another planting tip, think about when you plant, think about mowing and maintaining around your trees. I made the mistake with the first ones. I wanted them kind of scattered. I didn't want rows of trees, and I created a nightmare for mowing. So I've got certain areas I can mow nice and easy. I've got other areas that I start in and I have to go around a tree and back around a tree. It makes for a real pain to mow. So look at doing, you know, nice wide rows that you can get through with you know, whatever you're mowing with, whether it's a mower, a brush hog, finish mower, whatever it is you're going to mow with. You want to make sure you've got room. I don't know. I think that's it. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you weren't too annoyed by some of the windy footage out in the field. But if you've got questions, feel free to leave me a question. Happy to help answer it. And you know, thanks for joining. I'll see you the next time.